Hey YouTube, Mark Crawford here. This is part two of I think I'm going to entitle this Getting Your CDL. And this portion here, I'm going to give you some criteria regarding post-training or post-graduation. This is important even before you pick your company. And it actually should be used to help you pick your company. For instance, you don't want to look at the tuition, the length of the class, locations or experience, and different things like that. What you see online, and then neglect that perhaps if you want to run reefer, you end up going with a company that has very few reefers, or more drivers that want to run reefers than they have trucks, so you can't get in. So you want to be aware of that, especially in light of most of the training companies. You're going to be required to sign an agreement to work for them for so many months in lieu of helping you out. Obviously, a lot of drivers are concerned about home time, and over the years, trucking industry has a kind of a bad rap because of home time. I want to say something real short here in regards to slamming companies and driver managers. I don't necessarily believe in that, especially in the thick of it. There's so many people on YouTube that are slamming companies and drivers, and uh, what I found is if you do a good job, do more than what they ask for you, or the more they ask you to do. Try to develop a good relationship, a good rapport with the managers and your schedulers. You'll fare a lot better. You'll make more money. You'll get more loads and so forth. Um, Typically, if you're out for a week, you're going to get one day, and that's not necessarily 6 days out, one day in. Usually, when you're running a weekly gig like that, you're going to get a 34-hour restart. What that means is you're at home from the time you clock out of your truck to the time you clock back in. That's basically 34 hours. That's not a full weekend. You're not going to be coming in on Friday afternoon or Friday night and leaving out on Monday morning like you've been doing on your regular job in town, what have you. Trucking's a little different. So when they say you're running a weekly gig, typically you're out for 5.5 days and you're home for 1.5 days. Um, if you're out for 2 weeks, you're typically going to get a couple of days home. 3 weeks, 3 days. That's how it works. The ratio of 1 to 1, in a rough sense. The starting pay, or I should say, cents per mile, is somewhat overrated. It can be very confusing because a lot of companies with shorter runs are going to pay a higher cents per mile, rather versus companies with longer runs, say 3,000 miles a week. They may pay less per mile. So it's a little deceiving. I've talked to uh, drivers sitting at the docks waiting to be unloaded and so forth. And one in particular, I remember that he jumped from one company just over like 6 or 8 cents per mile, which is huge sounding, especially when you're talking thousands of miles. But when he jumped over to this other company, his miles dropped way, way off, and he was actually making less money than if he just stayed where he was at. So don't be deceived by cents per mile. You want to talk to the recruiters, obviously get that, but ask the recruiters what are the drivers averaging on the gig that you're looking at, for instance. And it's very competitive now. A lot of companies are doing everything they can to get drivers. I heard a statistic that in Texas we're like 1.1 million drivers short. So that's all the more reason to get your CDL and get out there. They want you. Ask the recruiters what is the average W-2 earnings for the gig that you're looking at, and they'll give that to you. A lot of them will volunteer that information to you right up front. I want to talk a little bit about different types of driving. There are flatbeds, there are intermodal containers, there are tankers, there are dry vans, there are reefers. And you'll hear arguments, to the effect of all of those. Some tanker drivers say that's the only way to go. You should go to tankers. Some reefer drivers, everybody's got to eat, so run a reefer. Your grocery stores are always going to need food. So, to each his own. Do your research. Find out what you'd like to do. Uh, my personal opinion, I think intermodal containers are going to be here for the long haul. I do think reefers are going to be here for the long haul. That being said, however, there's always going to be needs for flatbed drivers, because a lot of drivers, they don't want to touch freight and that sort of thing. And flatbed drivers, they're tarping, they're moving stuff around a lot of times and doing that sort of thing. So they're always shorthanded. Anyway, I hope you found this segment helpful. I'm going to continue on the next video to wrap this up on part 3, or I'll talk about some more criteria. If you like this sort of thing, you get anything out of it, hit like, subscribe so you'll be aware of my new videos. I'm going to try to continue posting videos to help you drivers that have questions. Speaking of questions, post them below. If you're hesitant about posting below, send me a private message or drop me an email. Love to hear from you and love to help you out, whatever I can do to help. Stay safe out there, and God bless.